Our next storyteller, Kelly Wilson, is an author and comedian who entertains and inspires with stories of humor, healing, and hope. Her latest book, Caskets from Costco, has been chosen as a finalist in the 18th Annual Forward Review's IndieFab Book of the Year Awards. Kelly's work has also been featured in a variety of anthologies and has been published in a wide range of work for both children and adults. Her work has been featured in the Huffington Post, Feminine Collective, and Sweatpants and Coffee, among others. As a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, Kelly writes and speaks about finding hope in the process of recovery. Can you please help me welcome Kelly Wilson?
Oh, hello. I am Kelly Wilson. I am the one that talks about the stuff that nobody wants to talk about, like the consequences of my lactose intolerance, the state of the toilets in my boys' bathroom. The really funny part about that is that they're here, and I didn't know that when I wrote this. And I also talk about the effects of trauma and the reality of suicide. I have been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and anxiety, and I've struggled with wanting to die because the pain and hopelessness has felt overwhelming. What stopped me? You did. Okay, well, not literally you, but my connections, my relationships. Those in my support system who are not afraid of me and who are not afraid of the word suicide. Friends and family members who talk with me and spend time with me and make sure that I am okay, regardless of what I'm going through. So many of us suffer silently with thoughts of suicide. We never talk about it, not with our friends, not with our colleagues, not with our family. These, we, are the 1 in 4 people who live with mental health challenges in the United States. And of that population, as many as 57% do not receive any treatment. Why? Because we are afraid. When I first started talking and writing and even joking about my own post-traumatic stress disorder, people would assume that I had been in the military. This is what people know right now about PTSD. I would answer, no, I hadn't served my country. And the next question always is, then why do you have PTSD? I hesitate a fraction of a second, and I stand a little bit taller. I take a deep breath, and I say, I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And there is always a flinch. This isn't what people expect. This isn't what we talk about, but we need to talk about it. Last fall, I had a significant and serious mental breakdown. I left my husband and children, moved out of my house, lived with friends, and then on my own for a while. I sank into a deep, dark depression. My medication had stopped working. Along with additional stressors in my life, I felt suicidal. I told the friends I was living with, I called my doctor, I called my therapist, and I got help. I tell you this part of my story because even for me, talking with others about suicide is difficult, and I find that incredibly ironic. I am open with my story and my mental health challenges, and many times people contact me with questions. Some of them are, I want to write my story, how can I get started? Or how have you made it through to this point in your life? And how do I get through this terrible depression? I received a question like this from a friend of mine from our junior high days, so she has a lot of dirt on me. And a loved one of hers had died. And her grief was so intense, it was so powerful, like nothing else she had dealt with before. And it was not letting up. It was tears and suffering and hopelessness for days. And she asked me how she was going to get through it, how I have gotten through these times in my life. And that's where the hope comes from, isn't it? Knowing that mental health challenges are real and they're treatable. I wasn't sure about the circumstances of her situation at the time, And she sounded so distraught that I knew I had to ask that one question. My stomach dropped and my palms grew sweaty, and I stared at the message on my computer screen. I did not want to ask her. I knew I had to ask her. And I had these thoughts, but she'll think I'm crazy. She'll get mad, or she'll be offended, or she'll never talk to me again. But I thought about my own experiences and the people in my life, my relationships, my connections, and I very slowly typed out, "Do you feel suicidal?" And I waited. The cursor blinked on the computer screen, and then there were those 3 little dots, and I waited, and it felt like an eternity. "No," she finally typed. "Thank you for asking me that." I took a breath, and our conversation continued, and I ended up giving her the National Suicide Hotline number anyway. It's always good to have. And trust me, the irony of this experience was not lost on me. And it hit me, if I am so afraid after my experiences of asking that one question, then there are more people out there who are afraid to ask it. This fear is the stigma that holds us back from not only talking about suicide, but any of our mental health challenges. The flinch when I tell people about my post-traumatic stress disorder, or when people say that anxiety isn't a real diagnosis, or that depression is just having the blues. But when we are honest, when we confront stigma and talk about these issues openly, people can get the treatment they need to recover and thrive. According to the National Advisory Mental Health Council, the treatment success rate for depression is between 65 and 80%. For bipolar disorder, 80%. Addiction, 70%. Schizophrenia, 60%. We owe it to ourselves and to each other to break through the stigma and connect about our mental health challenges. Remember when I said that it was you who helped prevent my suicide attempt? And then I said, okay, not literally you. The thing is, you can help someone in your life get the help and the treatment and the hope that they need. We can all learn to talk about the stuff that nobody wants to talk about. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. Adverse childhood experiences, including emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, emotional and physical neglect, domestic violence, mental or substance use disorders amongst family members, parental separation or divorce, a family member being incarcerated, death or suicide of a loved one, can adversely impact the physical, mental, and social well-being of our children throughout their lifetime, regardless of gender, race, or socioeconomic status. For example, more than half of the women in publicly funded mental health and substance use treatment report a history of trauma, with their abuse most commonly occurring in childhood. Kelly is a member of the ASHA Storytellers team, and she wants to help end the stigma surrounding childhood sexual abuse and mental illness. She wants us all to talk about the things that we don't want to talk about, and she wants to advocate for trauma-informed care. Thank you, Kelly.